everybody, Panda here. Just finished my playthrough of Heavy Rain and my dog being a pain in the butt. Just finished my playthrough of PS3's own Heavy Rain, which, if my dog would get off me, I could review. Anyway, this game was a very unique game when it came out. It was made by Quantic Dream, the PS3, and I'm going to quick read the back of the case as usual. Your smallest decisions can change everything. The origami killer has taken a new victim. In a terrorized city, the hunt for a child will leave 4 unconnected people to ask the same question. How far would you go to stop a killer? Play all 4 roles in this psychological thriller where every action you take has consequences. How this story unfolds is entirely up to you. That's a pretty good sum up of what this game is, especially the first line, that your smallest decisions can change everything. Because what it is it's basically a quick way to sum up what the game is. It is a quick time event. I'll sum it up that way. Because what it is a series of button pushes. It's not like action where you're just like, it's not like a Call of Duty game where you run around, shoot things. You have to press buttons, like almost in a Dance Dance Revolution sequence. So sometimes if you screw up a button, you end up not doing something that maybe you wanted to do. You can entirely affect the plot of where your story goes in one button push, which I think is really unique. So let's quick go on to the story. The story is about, like I said, a little boy in the city of Philadelphia gets abducted. The serial killer is done it to a few other kids, and it's the job of his dad, a private investigator, a journalist, and an FBI agent to try and find this kid. Or not find this kid, depending on how you play. You can play it however you want. You can make it that these people meet each other finally, that nobody ever meets each other. You can do whatever you want. Certain characters might not even make it to the end of the story. All of them might. Anything can happen. So there's not too much to really say about the story because everyone's story is going to be unique. You might have certain people do certain things. You might have them not do certain things. It really does change the entire map of the story. But I will say the story, I've tried all the options at least once on my personal account. And I have to say they're all different, but they're all unique and they make sense for the story. It's not like some weird, crazy, like that doesn't make sense. It's pretty realistic with expectations to an extent. So for the story, I have to give it a 9 out of 10. There are things that I think aren't as relevant that they try to push in, but every game, I guess, does that. Now for the graphics and sound. The music is beautiful in this game. It's a sad game, but this, like, orchestra music is always playing at, like, the especially sad moments, and it just puts you in the mood like, oh shit, stuff is gonna go down. And there's sometimes dramatic music. It really fits with what's going on in the game at that moment. They don't just play music to play music. But one thing I have a problem with this game was the graphics. Don't get me wrong, the faces are amazing. The graphics for the faces are really well done. But that's the problem. It's so well done, you kind of expect everything else in the environment to look good. And the environment looks good, but sometimes, like, little objects are just poorly made. Like, for example, the barbed wire Ethan cuts his finger on, Madison's TV remote, Scott Shelby's fridge, like, all these items are just, The graphics don't live up to everything else. Like, the whole environment of the city, the characters, they're so well done, so that when you notice these in the graphics, it's kind of a letdown, because it's like, oh, wow. I get that they didn't want to spend too much time and make it a ridiculously huge files taking up game to just, like, greatly animate a dozen eggs, but it's like, it seems like they could have done a little bit more and it would have been fine. So for sound, I give it a 10. Perfect sound for the game. For the graphics, I give it a 7. Because like I said, it's really good, but it just bothers me when I see so many little objects poorly animated. It just drives me nuts that in this day and age that we can make something look so good and so bad at the same time. It just kind of threw me off. I don't know about everyone else. Now for gameplay. Like I said, it's basically a button pushing sequence. That's all it is. That's all it really is. Excuse me. But it can, depending on the difficulty setting you put out, there's like an easy, a medium, and a hard mode. I did on what I guess they perceive as the hard mode. The more button pushes you'll have, the more intricate they are. Sometimes you'll have to tilt your controller. Sometimes you'll have to hold buttons. Sometimes you'll have to move buttons slowly. Like, there's no limit to the combinations that can go on, especially during fight sequences. You might have to do a 360 right stick spin, or a triangle button push, or rapidly tap the X button. So it's really I think it's really cool in fight sequences. I think it's really cool, the gameplay. And my dog is being a pain in the butt, but I think sometimes it's a little boring when there's not much going on. You're just walking around, like, checking out what an object is. It's kind of like, And sometimes they let you just play with objects that don't really have any meaning whatsoever. Shh, relax. Yes, relax. But yeah, like I said, it's great for tense moments with like chases or fights or something, but it's just like every now and then as you're just walking around, it's like, oh geez, I have to rapidly tap the X button to, I don't know, get them to make some cookies or something, just something stupid. You'll have to sometimes put more effort into it than you really want. But I think the characters are great, sound is great, graphics could have used a little work in some areas. Story is really unique. It's an overall unique game. I thought it does really well. Because like I said, you and your friend can get this very game, and you guys could end up with totally different endings. You might like one character more than another. You might hate certain characters, or you might not be able to, or you might fail a sequence, whether on accident or on purpose. Every little decision matters. And even ones that you think, oh, this is just such a minor thing, it's like, no, it could cause you to meet someone, it could cause certain people to interact, it could cause you to go somewhere different. Like, oh my god, there's so many examples in my gameplay alone of just how I, like, meet new characters or go to new locations. There's just so much insanity going on. And I think the ending that I picked was pretty fitting. It was the asshole edition. And I think some people had a problem with that because I failed certain, like, button pushes and sequences, but that was the point. It was just to give as little effort as possible to do the greater good. I'm doing the opposite of Phil's playthrough. I'm trying to be as much of a dick, like just not care about certain stuff, or just do things because they're fucked up. And believe me, I did a few fucked up things in that playthrough, so I think it was a good game. Overall, out of 10, I would have to give it an 8.5. Given this is done a few years after its release, but I think it really has held its own to an extent, but I think some things could have been improved on. But I think overall, really good game. If you want to buy it, buy it. There's one DLC out for it, The Taxidermist, featuring journalist Madison Page, but the only thing is there were other ones that were meant to fill certain plot holes that you will see in the game. I'm not going to spoil. But these DLCs are never going to be released because Sony wanted this game to be motion control compatible. And I guess it's kind of good for motion control. If you like motion controls, get motion controls for it. If you are like me and you don't really think motion controls are really anything to be all excited about, just play it regular. You'll probably get the same experience. I don't know, I hate motion controls. But because of motion controls, there's only going to be this one DLC, The Taxidermist, so there are videos online from, like, the developers and stuff that explain these plot holes, but it's kind of disappointing that they never came out. Who knows, I might have even scored this higher if there were more DLCs, but what can you do? It's Panda Lee here, giving my Panda perspective on Quantic Dream Zone Heavy Rain. Will we see some great work from them in the future? I sure hope so, because I really enjoyed Heavy Rain. It's definitely worth trying out, trying to get all the endings, see all the crazy decision making. So that's me, Panda Lee here, giving my official rating of Heavy Rain. Stick around for a channel update.